Hey everybody! Well, today we're going to take a look at another cool 3D printed model that I found on Etsy. I've been finding a lot of cool stuff on Etsy lately. So what this will hopefully turn out to be is that weird looking, it's called the Gatekeeper droid. It was seen in Star Wars Return of the Jedi, and it's in that scene where C-3PO and R2-D2 come up to that big huge gate for Jabba's palace, and 3PO timidly taps on the gate, and then this big eyeball thing comes shooting out of the gate and starts talking to him in that weird language. And so now I wish this was full size. It's not, but I wish it was. I think if this was full size, this part here would be like about this big, is my guess. Maybe this is only maybe 1/2 the size. I think it should be about a half size bigger, but it's okay. I couldn't find anything that's full size. But here we can see it's got a ton of parts. Now let's start with this one. I think this is going to be the base. And you can see how it's kind of got some texture on here to represent that big iron gate. You will be able to hang this, which I think I'll try to do. And then, now I'm not sure what all these parts are. I'm guessing this piece goes with this somehow. And then this is the little door that comes open. You can see this thing here. It's got texture on it as well. But this is where in the movie it flips open like this and then that eye comes out. And I think this is going to be the little hinge or something. I'm not sure how all of this connects. I'm gonna have to look at the pictures from the website because there was no instructions to this, which would have been helpful. Let's see what else. We got some of the longer sections in here. I think this piece is going to go in here, is my guess. And also we have this piece here. This is really nice. It's got these cool looking like tubes or cylinders right here. I think most of this is painted pretty much like a rust color and a silver. I think that's really all the colors that are on it. And I'm guessing this is going to go in here somehow as well. It's going to help connect all of this. Here is the really cool eyeball pieces. So here's the part that goes on the back, and then you get this really nice clear diffused thing. Look at how nice this looks. So this is going to go on here. And then you're going to have this piece, which is kind of like the iris, which is going to go on here. And then from that point, you're going to add the eyelid area. So this is all going to go together somehow like this. I'm not exactly sure how it's all going to fit, but it's going to look pretty cool, as you can see there. Now I have some lights that a person is making for me that will have like these circulating lights in here, because for a brief second you can see that the lights are turning. I think this thing is on screen for a total of like 10 seconds, if that. It's got a really brief screen time, which is a shame because I would have liked to have seen more of it. One thing I do wish that they would have done with this is, because I want to put this light circuit on here, it's like a ring-shaped circuit board. It would have been nice if they hadn't had this solidly done back here, or maybe have this cut out. I'll have to probably cut either this part out or this part out to accommodate for that light circuit, and then have it shining in there. It might be good to have this so that it'll diffuse the light more. I'll have to see when I get that light circuit, but it's really cool. I'm glad that they made this piece already diffused. And then these are those weird looking things that kind of stick out of the side. It almost looks like they're little legs or something, but these are really well done too. I think these are rust colored as well. Here's the other one. And then this piece here, I have no idea what this is. I don't know if this was just some kind of a nameplate that goes with it or something. I'm not sure if I'm even holding it right side up. So maybe some of you might know how to read that language. I think it's Arabic or something like the Star Wars world uses. And then we also have these pieces. I have no idea what these are. There's like these little white discs in there, and then these kind of tiny little I don't know, they're like cylindrical dowel pieces or something. I'm not sure what these are at all. So it looks like I'm going to have to figure out what everything is and then get to painting. There's going to be a lot of painting on this and a lot of weathering too. All right, so it should be pretty fun, and hopefully I can make it look good when it's finished. Okay, so quite a bit of painting done now. Most of this is a rusty brown color. I went back and looked at some of the scenes from the movie, and it's all rusty brown colors. So you can see what's going on here. Now I used the Tamiya Paint TS1 red brown, and that's what I did for most of this. I did have to mask off this center area because there's some silver on it. So there's some silver on this part, and then there's silver on this part, and I just used TS17 gloss aluminum for that. But we can see how everything turned out. So This is the eyeball thing. Painted a little bit of the inside. You might be able to see some of the inside part of here. And here's the other half of it right here. And then this piece is going to be the back of the eye. And I didn't paint the whole thing because the only part you're going to see is a little bit of this. Because when this piece is on, see how there's this little slotted hole? That's for if you want to make the eyeball, you know, turn up and down. Oh, and this is also silver. This is the iris piece. So now I'm just waiting for the lights to get in here. Oh, those little pieces that were in that bag, they go on these things. So those little spikes and that little, those little cylinder pieces, they go like one spike, then the cylinder, one spike, then the cylinder, that kind of thing. And there's little holes that you glue those into, and that's what those were for. And it's on both of these. And then also the little discs, that goes on the little ends right here. So that's what those were for. I'm not really sure how I figured that out, but because there was no instructions to this. But anyway, the parts are really nice. I gotta say, there was very little cleanup on this at all. Look at that pile of paint over there. Oh my God, what a mess. Trying to go through all my model supplies. This thing here, I went ahead and painted it brown. There's going to be some weathering. I'm going to have to do some weathering on this. I might make this a little darker than the rest of it. I didn't paint the back because you're not going to see that anyway. So that's what I might do with that. I haven't decided yet. So a lot of gluing once I get this done. I think once I glue it in place, I'm not going to make it adjustable. Like that pole right there, you can make it come out of this thing further if you want. But I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to set it and forget it and leave it at one length, and that'll be it. All right, well, I guess I'll work on figuring out what's next. Okay, so I got the lighting circuit in, and I've been trying to figure out how the heck I'm going to get all this in here. So here's the base once again. I've scraped away some paint where I'm going to be gluing the upper part of this right here onto here so that the glue will stick better. Now here are the wires. Now I had to extend these because the wires weren't long enough. And I probably should have made them even a little bit longer, but here's the circuit. So it's going to run on 4 AAA batteries. And then I guess this is the circuit part of it. There's a push button right here. So what I'm going to do is I cut this little trough out on the bottom. And then this is the bottom. It doesn't have any texture here. So I'm going to end up having the wire come through here. So this is where I've extended the wires right here. Okay, so they're gonna come out a little bit like this. Now this is gonna have to go into this little trough like that. I'll have to hot glue it. This is gonna go on the side right here along with this, and the battery is gonna be right here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna have to build a little box to hide all this. I think I'm just gonna use a foam board and build a little box to hot glue it to the bottom of this, and then make a lid on it so I can get in there and change the batteries. And I'll go ahead and put the little button on the box as well. And then from here, the wires are gonna come through, and they're gonna come through here. It's not gonna be easy to feed these wires through here because there's all kinds of crisscross stuff going on from the supports where this was 3D printed. So I'm gonna use one of these sticks right here. And I've already experimented with it, but I'm gonna tape the wires right here onto this stick and then just kind of force it through with the point and try to get it all the way through to the top where the wires will come out up here. And then, oh my gosh, this is just kind of crazy. Okay, then from there, we got this piece. Now this is the circuit that makes the lights circulate. So I had to gouge out all of this, as you can see here, and you can see the supports in there. And then I had to kind of gouge out in here to make sure this fits flush. So see how that fits kind of flush right there? And I had to make it sink down in there so that this clear piece would fit on here properly like that. And I was going to paint this, but I was looking at the actual prop, and theirs is just clear. I think the only thing that makes it look orange is the orange lights. So that should be just fine. And then I'm going to have to feed, or I'm going to have to eventually solder these two ends of the wires back together. And that's going to be kind of tough because this thing is going to be on here as well. This tube. See, that's going to be attached, and then that's got to attach to this. And then the wires are just barely going to come out. So I'm going to have to try to solder these two ends of the wires together like that. So, oh man, yeah, I had to wait till I got the circuit to try to figure out how this was all going to go together. But I think I can pull it off, hopefully. And then I'll kind of show you what I got going on next after I get that done. Okay, so I've managed to glue a lot of this together now. So this is glued down here at the bottom. There is a disc piece underneath here, and it has a bevel to it. So you can decide if you want this to lean slightly downward or upward. I've decided to do it downward because it's how it looks most of the time in the movie when it's looking down at 3PO and R2. And then I've also went ahead and glued right in this part right here where the silver meets the brown. Went ahead and soldered those wires back together. This is the box that I made. I just made it out of foam board. It's kind of rinky-dink, but you know, it's all right. I just needed something to kind of hide all this going on in here. So the wires are going to come out that little trough area. I cut a little bit of the corner out here so the wires can go through there. I'm just going to hot glue all of this in place. And then I made a little lid right here, and it just has some magnets on it so that I can just click it on here like this. Well, this wire's in the way right here, but it's just going to fit flush like that, and then that way I can just take this off to change the batteries. I'm going to go ahead and paint this whole thing this reddish brown color so it'll blend in, and try to weather it up a little bit so it looks a little more like it belongs there. And so here we have all of this. So now let me turn on the circuit here so you can see how these lights work, because it's kind of cool. It's got this nice tiny button, and then here we go. So in the movie, there's a very quick scene where you can kind of see that the lights are circulating like this. And so the gentleman that made this circuit for me did a really good job. This looks just like it, and it turns at about the same rate too. So these are orange. I'm not sure they're coming out on camera all that great, but they have like an amber color to them. They're really a nice amber. And so when I get this piece on here, let's put this on. So that's what it's going to look like. You can kind of see it kind of has that same kind of look to it. I was going to paint this thing amber too, but as I mentioned, I think it's clear in the movie. So when you put this iris piece on here, you actually only see that much of it. But it works perfectly. You can really see how nice that looks. Kind of looks red on camera. I wish I could kind of get the actual color of it. You can kind of see it's more orange right there. Looks very cool. So then once I get those lid pieces on there, it's going to look really cool. There is some light bleed going on here, but that's going to all be covered up by the eyelashes. I mean the eyelids. And then when you glue this part to that part, you got to make sure you line up that hole right there and that hole, because that's where those pieces right here get glued on. So I'm almost done. I got to glue the lid on and then start doing a wash on this. I think I'll put a heavy wash on it. So, and I haven't decided how far I want this thing to stick out yet. I'll have to figure that out. But yeah, it's really turning out really nice now. So it looks very cool. It's very cool. All right. Well, more work to be done, I guess. Okay, so I'm finally on the home stretch when it comes to building this thing. I got these things on here now. They're a little bit tricky to get on there to make sure you got them lined up properly and that this bar comes across the right way. And I got all the weathering done. If I can focus in on this, you can see how this looks right here. I used like a, well, it says it was called rust, but it looks more like a copperish color to kind of make these highlights on here, but it looks really nice. It makes this thing look like metal. And then I just also did some dry brushing, and I took a black wash and just kind of smeared everything on there to make it look like maybe it's been sitting out in the water. You can see down here, I really like the effect that it did right there. This box looks a lot better now that it's painted the same way as the base is. And here's the lid. You can really kind of see that copperish color on there. So it's very cool. The lid doesn't open or close. It's just glued in place like that, which is fine. But yeah, I really like the way this turned out. Now, I forgot to mention, the person that I got this lighting kit from, I found this gentleman on Etsy. He goes by the name Hephaestus eCrafts. Hephaestus eCrafts. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. You know, I'll put the words down here at the bottom of the screen so you can see what it is. I'll put a link in the description so you can check it out. He makes all kinds of different lighting effects, and he had something that was really similar to what I needed for this, and so he altered one of the circuits that he makes to have that effect that I needed for this, and it was perfect. So thank you to Hephaestus eCrafts off of Etsy for making the lighting kit for me. I really appreciate that. So the only thing I got to do, the only thing I got left, I should say, is I'm going to spray everything down with a dull coat right there to protect all this paint and all this weathering, and then I'm just going to glue on the rest of these parts, and then I should be ready to go. And then I got to find a place to hang this. I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, but it should be pretty cool once I get it all done. All right, I got it all set up now. So I just put it in with one screw and a wall molly to hold it up. You got a lot of weight sitting, you know, out this way since the whole thing is hanging over there, but one screw will hold it. It's not super heavy, you know, it's a relatively light thing, but it's just that all the weight's hanging over like this. But here you can see it's all together now, and I think it turned out pretty cool. So, you know, I needed to put it in a place where people aren't going to bump into it. So, you know, the robot's right here, so nobody's going to walk into that little corner and stuff. So I figured that was a good spot. And you can adjust how far you want this to stick out. It'll go further out than that. I think it'll go out to about here. Or you can push it all the way in if you want, if you don't want it to stick out at all. But I think it turned out really good. You can see how this looks. So I think the weathering looks really good. I showed you some of this already. And I thought the dull coat was going to take away some of the highlights of the copper and stuff. But I don't know, this light that's on here right now, I got these track lights on, and they're really kind of washing out some of this detail. But here you can see the lid is on there. It's very cool. I love this thing. Here, we'll take it on the other side here. You can see what that looks like. So the only thing I kind of screwed up on, unfortunately, was this bar. I didn't quite line this up properly right here. You can see how it doesn't quite line up right there. And that's because I had a heck of a time getting this thing to stay on once I glued it. I super glued it to these two connector points right here and here. And then I had to match up this one, and this one would not stick even with super glue. I had to use hot glue to get that on there, and even because this one had already settled, I couldn't quite get them to match up. So I don't think most people are going to notice it anyway, especially because of the shadows hitting it the way it is. But this is really cool. I've always thought that thing from Star Wars was really cool. It's called a gatekeeper. Okay, so let me dim the lights, and I'll show you what the lights look like. Okay, so this may not be dim enough. Let me hit this button right here. And this particular circuit, when you push the button, it takes a second or two for it to kick in. Okay, so there it is. So now there it is all lit up. Now, unfortunately, the camera is washing this out. If I can get close enough to this, see how that's doing the cool spinning feature right there? That looks really, really cool. Oh, man. And it looks red. Once again, it looks red, but it's a very nice orangish amber color. Let me see if I can... I just can't quite, well, maybe I can kind of get the amber color if I have to get really close. But it's even a richer amber than that. But this is really neat. It's unfortunate that it's getting washed out. The camera just really has a hard time focusing on this. Let me turn off the, let me turn off the main kitchen lights here and see what that helps. Ooh. Now it's just like pitch black. All right, let me see if that makes it look more... Oh, okay, now you can kind of see it. Well, it's still a little reddish, isn't it? I really love that circulating pattern in there. So as I said in the movie, if you watch that scene, this thing is only on screen for like maybe 10 seconds. It pops out, it does that little kind of thing where it says, you know, a bunch of weird gibberish, and you can hear the word blinky that he mentions in there. It would have been cool to get maybe the soundtrack for this while he... like have the voice tracks for this and have it talk, but and it just very briefly talks to 3PO and R2-D2 at the gate, and then it eventually lets them in. But you know, they put a lot of work into a prop that is only seen for a very brief time. All right, so here, let me turn the lights back on. All right, so yeah, it's a shame that I can't have you appreciate the cool orange color of this, but it is neat. I love that circulating pattern. So once again, I got this lighting kit from a gentleman. Well, they go by the name Hephaestus E-Crafts on Etsy, and I'll put a link in the description. He has a bunch of different circuits that have these kind of effects to it, but this was exactly what I was looking for, because in that scene, very briefly, you can see some light circulating in there, and they kind of go in this direction. They kind of go kind of slow like that. But this is a great kit. So I found this on Etsy. Let's see. You know what? I'll put a link in the description for the person that I got this kit from as well. It comes molded, as you saw, in black and well, it may be different colors. I think they just, a lot of these sellers just use whatever they, you know, feel like using. But it's going to be, the whole thing here is going to rely on a good paint job to make things look like it's made of like iron, like the gate looked on there. And you're going to want to make things look dirty and put a nice wash on there. I really like the way that turned out on that part right there. And this kind of turned out looking like water drops ended up on there. I was wanting it more to look like right here. You can kind of see how it looks more smeared, but I just could not get that wash that I made to be more thick without it being too heavy. And then I was worried I couldn't get the stuff off of there. So it's definitely an art to, you know, doing a wash on stuff. But this looks really good. It comes with all the parts you need. The lighting kit, as I mentioned, it's going to have that bulky battery area and that little circuit board, but if you can kind of jury rig something like this to blend in, then you're not going to notice. I mean, that just looks like it's part of the kit. Most people aren't even going to notice that or know what it's for. But yeah, this is pretty cool. So I really like the way this turned out, and it looks really good sticking out on the wall. I've always thought this thing was so cool in the movie, so I'm really glad to finally get one. Alright, well, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'd very much appreciate it. And until the next time, I'll see you on the next video. So thank you again, and have a good one.